Hello everybody, and welcome to the Fortean Slip Bedtime Stories. Tonight, 3 creepy encounters with the Dogman. Number 1. I am 44 years old now. I've had 2 incidents in my life where I am absolutely confident I saw a large, hairy, wolf or wolf-like creature. Once was in the 1970s and I was rather young, maybe 7 or 8 at the most. The creature was looking at me in my bed on a night that was quite stormy before I saw it. I remember how big and broad it was, and how it stood on 2 legs as a human would. It was a dark night, but I could see this thing easily as the departed storm was still close enough to flash lightning that lit up everything outside. The thing had a wolf face and yellowish eyes, but not bright yellow, not fluorescent-like either, more of a subdued yellow. It had pointy ears that seemed to keep moving through the whole experience, like he was twitching them all the time for some reason. It never snarled, growled, howled, etc., but it just looked at me. I was in bed trying to settle down and go back to sleep after the storm, which rattled me as a kid. For some reason, I felt like I had to look outside. I turned over and sat up. I was not 20 feet from this thing, and separated only by the wrought iron door with its glass. I became terrified to the point I started yelling like mad. My grandmother and little sister were asleep in a bed even closer to the door, but at the angle they could not sit up and see what I saw. I was literally scared out of my wits. I started screaming, and quickly my grandmother woke up, turned on a lamp, then came over to me quickly, and of course she asked what was wrong. I was staring at the thing, and I could only point toward it. I could not speak a word. When I pointed, it started stepping back away from the door as my grandmother looked to see what scared me. She never said she saw it, but I am confident she did. Her voice changed and she woke up immediately. My sister woke up about this time and stayed in the bed. She was younger than me, and she began crying because I was. She was scared because I was. I saw the thing turn and move away, not at a fast pace, just stepped away and faded into the dark. Number 2. The area around Reed City, Michigan has been a hotbed of Dogman activity. This report details an event that occurred nearly 20 years ago, but the witness remembers it like it was yesterday. Her name is Courtney, and her encounter took place during the winter of 1993 to 1994. Courtney was a teenager at the time and was sneaking cigarettes behind her parents' home near Todd Lake, northeast of Reed City. The sun was setting on a clear, cold winter day. Courtney was facing a large abandoned barn on the property next door. The barn had always kind of spooked me. It was filled with rusty old equipment. The outer planks were all rotten, and it sagged and leaned in every direction. My dad said to stay away, as the whole thing could collapse. On that evening, I was standing about 50 feet from the barn and saw sunlight coming through the gaps in the siding. Courtney took her eyes off the barn for a few minutes, then something caught her attention again. There was some movement. The light flickered, but I couldn't really tell what it was. Then it turned its head back and looked straight at me. It was at least 6 feet tall, if not more. It was dark-colored. It had a dog-like appearance, pointy nose, and really big, pointy ears. Courtney dashed into her house to grab a flashlight. When she returned outside, she shined it toward the barn door, but the animal was no longer there. She walked closer to the barn to look for tracks in the heavy snow. When she didn't see any, she realized the creature might still be inside, and ran back to the safety of the house. She never saw the creature again. She later talked to a neighbor who had seen something, the size of a buffalo, but the shape of a dog, in the same barn a few months before Courtney's encounter. The neighbor said she had been so frightened she was in near hysterics for days. Her father had taken his gun and searched the barn, but found nothing there. Number 3. I have a sighting to report. My old neighbor who committed suicide shortly after his experience came to me with his experience. We were both registered Maine guides, hunting, fishing, recreation. Guiding in Maine is a serious business. The criteria are strict, and guides are expert woodsmen with years of outdoors experience. Anyway, he confided in me about this sighting. He was hunting his own property during deer season of 2011. The property is located on the Jefferson-Washington town lines, which are also the Knox-Lincoln county lines in Maine. The particular property is a Christmas tree farm and is private property. My friend was watching a run where deer regularly traveled, cutting through his property. He observed for a minute a bipedal creature walking, with its upper body well above his Christmas trees. It had a wolf's head, was muscular, and covered in hair, but walking like a man. At the end of the sighting, the creature dropped to all fours and took off down the run. He was shaking when he told me the story, and based upon my few years working in law enforcement, I don't believe he was lying. Both of us guided for bear hunters at the time, and I know he was very familiar with bears and Maine wildlife in general. He made a particular emphasis on the pointed ears. He said it looked like a werewolf. In Maine, people do see these things and generally call them wendigo. After that sighting, I carried a firearm going to my barn at night. I am certain that he told me the truth. Unfortunately, for some reason, he committed suicide shortly after he told me about the sighting, which was very fresh at the time. The area has some large tracts of woods with very limited access due to private property. There is a stream passing through the area and some high ridges. Also, old cellar holes and stone walls are scattered throughout the forest behind the property. Food sources are plentiful in the area, with old apple trees, berry patches, deer, turkey, snowshoe hares. Bears are present in the area, but not in huge numbers. Moose are also present, but again, not in large numbers. While I still own a house very near the spot, I have moved to South Dakota and have no intention of moving back to Maine due to political economic reasons. I am curious if other Maine folks have seen these things. Thank you for joining us this evening. Good night.